Okay, so SOLIDWORKS Visualize is a new product added to the SOLIDWORKS product suite. It was previously called Bunk Speed, and SOLIDWORKS has taken it under its wing. It basically is a visualization software, and it takes rendering to the next level from what tools we already have. So SOLIDWORKS Visualize is a standalone program, so you can run it without having a SOLIDWORKS license, and you can basically import models from many other 3D CAD software packages, so it doesn't have to be a SOLIDWORKS model only. It can take a variety of products, and it comes in two versions. So we have Visualize Standard and Visualize Professional. Visualize Professional has a few extra options, and we'll be using Professional in today's demonstration. For a product metrics, just visit the SOLIDWORKS website, and there is a list of what options are available in the standard and professional version. So going through what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to look at the introduction of Visualize, and basically what it is and how we can use it. We're going to start with a model designed in SOLIDWORKS. I'm going to look at getting the product camera ready, so applying some scenes, some lights, some textures, and we can see how simple it is to do that with Visualize. Then we're going to look into greater detail the lighting, cameras, and the appearances, and how we can change those. Okay, and finally we're going to look at getting the product, getting it to life, so using a short animation we're going to discuss, and also a VR, which allows us to interact with the model. Okay, so I'm going to begin. I've got Visualize open in the background. Basically looking at a model that I've opened. This is a model designed using SOLIDWORKS. Okay, so we have in Visualize has the ability to automatically render everything in real time. So as we make changes to the way appearances are placed onto the model, or lighting, or whatever else, Visualize will change to give us a preview in real view. And we can see the model in three different ways. We can see it in preview mode, which probably looks a little bit more closer to what SOLIDWORKS would have in real view. And then we have the ability to use fast mode, where the software creates a fast render quickly for us to see. And we also have an accurate mode, where as you can see, it takes a little bit more time to get the image to preview correctly, but the image is much better quality. So we're going to be using the fast mode preview for the presentation, and it will give us a pretty good view on what's going on as we change the model around. So we spoke about having some selection tools, okay, being able to select the model. You can select particular parts or a group of components there. We also have the ability to manipulate objects, parts, assemblies, and so on, so we're able to move them around. And we also have camera manipulation tools, so rotate, pan, zoom, and all of that sort of thing. And finally we have the output tools, where we can output particular render, take a snapshot, animation, and some other options there. On the right hand side of the screen we have 5 different tabs, and this is basically where we view everything about the model and make changes in these tabs. The first one here is the actual feature tree. There are a few options regarding how you can import the model into Visualize, and some of those options will give you an exact feature tree as what you would have in SOLIDWORKS, so that will make it easier to be able to find parts and manipulate parts and that sort of thing. So we've imported this in a particular way. We can see all of the components here. We even have a little icon that shows us what the component actually looks like. So that's pretty good. We have some socket screws What we can do here is we've got some techniques in which we can group components together. So if I control select all of these, I can create a new group and just place them all in a particular group, just down the bottom part group there. You can see all of the sockets being grouped, or socket screws being grouped. And if we want to make a change to the whole group, we can do it in that way. We can also, so let me just go to part selection mode, and we can see those screws selected there. If I select this particular part, okay, it is the satin finish plate side. Okay, so the plate side 1, we do have 2 side plates. Okay, so what I'm going to do in this case is merge those 2 together. So as you control select them, you have the ability to merge them together. So now when I select one, both of them are selected. And I want this because in the future I'm going to be making a change, and I want the change to propagate to both. Down the bottom we can see an animation timeline. Later on we're going to be using this for an animation. So let's go through and have a look at the second tab. The second tab is appearances. Now in this tab we have each appearance, and as I click on the appearance, it selects the part that has that appearance onto it. So we have each component grouped by appearances as well. In this way, if I click on this orange satin finish appearance, it's those 2 parts that have it. And it's very easy. So we've got a lot of settings regarding that appearance there. So we've got starting from the name, the color, and the roughness, to the different settings regarding bump, alpha channels, and so on. And quite a lot of settings through here, many of which we'll go through. So if I click on the color, I'm able to just make a change by moving the sliders around, or sliding through here as well, yeah, make a change to the color. We've got the HSV spectrum as well as the RGB spectrum that we can use there. I'm going to go back to the original one and just close this for a moment. We also have, if I select it again, surface roughness, and just by hovering over it we do get a display of what it is. So changing the surface roughness decreases or increases reflectivity. So if we have a look at this particular area of the model where we have some shadows because of the pods that are down there, if I go through and change the surface roughness, you can see how, well, let me just slide across a little bit further. So as the roughness increases, there's less reflection onto the surface. So let me set that to 10, and you can see the reflection there coming back on. So it's very intuitive in that there are descriptions, sliders, and ways to change things just by simply looking at it. You don't necessarily need to have read some type of documentation to be able to make changes. The next tab is the scenes. This is where we set the environment. We also have the cameras. But before I get onto those, I'm going to look at this last tab, and this is the libraries tab. So we've got a local library which has particular environments or appearances, models, images, and so on that comes with the software. So if I go to appearances, for example, and look at the plastic appearances, we've got some here. And we also can toggle between the local library and the cloud library. So if I click on the cloud library there, yeah, and look at plastics, we should see that there is a substantial amount more, okay? And these can be edited, they can be changed in certain ways and saved as new appearances, or you can download them off the internet as well. So let's go back to the local library and look at the plastics. And I'm just going to zoom into the model here, and just so that we can see it closely. And I'm going to make some changes to that particular part. Okay, so this particular part, the plastic component. And I'm going to do that by going into my plastics, just using the Ultra Gloss, and just basically by dragging it and dropping it over the component, we have the ability to change that. Or if I use, say, the molded, because that component will be molded, so if I use my molded appearance and just drag it and drop it onto that, see how the appearance changes to give us a molded look. If I go back into the appearances, now those new appearances that I've dragged in, they appear, and I can make changes to them pretty easily. So we've looked at the surface roughness there. Regarding the texture, just a little bit further down, so because it is molded, we can see there is some surface bump on it, and we have the ability to control how that bump looks. So if I increase the bump size or strength, we'll see that the surface will start looking much rougher, okay, and decreasing that down probably to about 0.5, and I'm going to just leave it there. We also have the ability to change the tile sizing, the rotation, so if it's not symmetric, the bump can be rotated. In this case, the rotation won't make much of a difference. You can't see the rotation of the little bumps. The tile size will however, make considerable amount of difference. If I decrease the size, I should see that the bumps appear much larger, okay, like so, and similarly, if I increase the tile size to something like 5, okay, so the bumps appear much finer. I'm going to leave that there at the moment. So we have, let me just zoom out so I can see the model completely again. There we go. So we've made a change to the appearance on the top there. Now, what if we want to create maybe multiple versions, or what we call configurations in SOLIDWORKS? We have the ability to do that in Visualize as well. So configurations in Visualize basically mean different configuration of appearances, scenes, and cameras. They can all be captured in configurations. Well, appearances and scenes, cameras can be set up differently as well. So we'll look at that also. So configurations are right on the top here. If I click this plus button, I can edit the name of the configuration. I'm going to call this orange. And so we have the orange configuration. And what I'd like to do in this case is create a few different colors and present those to the marketing department and see what they like best. And we can do this simply by, so I know this orange color is my satin finish appearance here. I'm simply going to press Control-C and then Control-V. That will copy the appearance and basically paste a new version of it down the bottom. Okay, and what that means is I've copied all of the default settings of the appearance, and then I can make some small changes to it, for example, the color. So first of all, I'm going to create a new configuration and call this green. And okay that. And in my green configuration, I'm going to apply that appearance there, and I'm going to change the appearance of this and make that green basically. There we go. That looks okay. And so I have my orange version and I have my green version here. Going to do one more, so another configuration, and I'm going to apply a charcoal color. Okay, and so once again the same thing, Control C, Control V, and change this color to charcoal. So that looks good about there. And apply that. And that way, there we go. So we have three configurations of this. So my intention here is to render all these three. It'll probably take some time. What SOLIDWORKS Visualize gives us is the ability to send all the renders in a queue. So if I hover over the output tools and go to render, okay, I have so a few different ways I can render on top here. So animations, I have a turntable, sun study there, and just a snapshot. From all of these settings, I mean, we have the image format, output mode. For output mode, I'm going to use all configurations. So that will go through all the configurations that I've created, and it will render all of them. The number of passes, resolution, and all that sort of thing. The quality here, render passes can be, you can use the quality or speed slider there. And we can render using our CPU, GPU, or a hybrid using both of these. Okay. Once we're ready, simply send to queue. So the queue will now open, and we'll be able to see all of the jobs that I've set up in the queue. Okay. So the last one is the one right down the bottom here, which, as you can see, says all configurations. These old ones, I'm going to just simply remove them. Okay, so the render queue allows you to queue up many jobs and then leave the computer rendering while you're out of work or overnight, something like that. So it's a very good option here. So I'm going to close that. I've sent that to the render queue, and if I was to render it, which will take a bit of time, if I do it at the moment, I've got one that I've already rendered, and we can see. So all configurations. Okay, so this is a rendered image of the of all of my configurations. I've got the charcoal here. I've got the green. Okay, so it is a really good quality output that comes out. A little bit better than the current tools that were available in SOLIDWORKS with PhotoView 360. So it is industry standard type of rendering. Quite awesome. All right, so we've got a few different configurations. Marketing departments come back and saying, okay, the charcoal is what we want to go with, so we're going to keep the charcoal. We do have all of them there if ever we need to change it, though. We can change it at any time. So with the charcoal, we're going to go on further now and add some lighting, some different snapshots, different cameras, and that sort of thing. To do that, we're going to use, first of all, the Scenes tab. Scenes have the environments and the backplates options here. The environments give us a setting of what the environment's like, all the lighting sources and the reflections from those. Backplates deal with the background. Okay, so for the moment, we're not going to be applying any backgrounds, but having a look at some of the scenes, and I'm going to go to the library and add some more. From appearances, I'm going to go to environments here and just having a look at some of the environments that are available. So this is my local library. As I said, the online has quite a lot more, and of course you can add yours in. And also things like the textures and the lighting, as well as any decals that you've added in SOLIDWORKS, they automatically come into SOLIDWORKS Visualize as well. So if I was to change it to something a little bit more dramatic, say this German dirt road, okay, you can see straight away the lighting and shadows change, how the glass surfaces and the more reflective surfaces have a green type of look. The White Panel Studio is another one, and this is the one I'm going to use. This will simulate a lighting environment in a studio, and if I go back to my appearances, so those two that I've placed there do appear in there. So using this White Panel Studio and just having a look at some of the options that come with it. So we've got background color, which at the moment is being controlled by this backplate, which is just plain white. I'm going to use plain white there, but we have brightness, gamma rays, the size, height, rotation of the shadows, as well as things like floor reflections and that sort of thing. So if I go through and make a few changes to these, just make it a little bit brighter. About 1.8 will do. There we go. We have here, I'm going to leave these basically as they are. That's fine. Floor reflections, I'm going to apply some floor reflection over here. So just the slider, there we go. And we can see that there are some reflections. If I go further out, they should increase. So leave them at 0.8, it's fine. 0.85 maybe. Okay, and so the shadow intensity is down at the bottom, and so here we can create a new light, new environment from the settings, that sort of thing as well. So once I have my my lighting set up from the environment, I've gone through the settings, I'm going to go to the cameras and I'm going to create a few snapshots. Okay, so for the moment I'm just going to rebuild the thumbnail. So this is my default camera, and that will rebuild it to this color and all the settings that I've created. Okay, and from here on I can make some changes to the camera. One of the best things about Visualize is that you have post-processing options. Okay, and here we've got the ability to lighten, darken. We've got saturation, exposure. We have the ability to add a vignette, and so on and so forth. So let's go through and make some changes here. So I'm going to enable the post-processing, and for vignette, just sliding that across, and you can see how it makes it a little bit darker. Leave it about there. So darken the scene a little bit. With this darken option, I'm going to set it to 1.5, just a little bit darker there, and make a change to this. Saturation 1 is okay, and just leaving the rest of them as they are. Further down, we have the ability to add things like depth of field, motion blur, and things like that. So I've created this and just rebuilding my thumbnail, and we can see what it looks like. So we've got a few effects here, and what I'm going to do now is create a new camera. So with the cameras, once again, you can create a new camera there, or you can simply copy the existing one with all of its options as they are. So Control-C, Control-V, very easy to create a new camera. I'm going to rename this, call it Top View. Just call it Top View for the moment. And what I'm going to do, just activating that camera and rotating it around so we can see the top view there and see in real time how it's rendering the model. Rotate a little bit more. There we go. So this is good, and I'd like to create a render there. So what I'm going to do is going down near the bottom, going to enable depth of field, and this allows me to change the focal distance Okay, there either by sliding, or I can actually make a selection on the model there, selecting the handle, and that will give me focus onto this area of the model, so the top part of the model, and blurring out the bottom part. So, and I'm going to do the same thing. So Control C on the camera, Control V, and activating the new camera. And over here, I'm simply going to change the focal point down to the drip tray, like so. Okay. Therefore giving me more focus on the drip tray itself, the bottom part of the cup there, and blurring out the top. And I'm going to do just one more. So going to use this standard camera view, Control C, Control V, and just make a change to this. Just going to look at it front, like so. Just rotating a little bit there, and that's fine. So I've created four different cameras, and what I'm going to do is send these to my render tools. So I'm going to click render, and using these standard options there, I'm going to select all cameras and send to queue. That will go through, send all of those cameras, and we can see here all cameras, and that's being sent. So as soon as I click start, it will go through the top and basically go through and render all of them. You can close that now and have a look at some that I pre-created earlier. So we have our standard isometric, which is that render there. Moving forward, so this is the focus point on the handle on top, and moving through, you can see a very, very nice and clear reflection on the drip tray there, while the top of the model has been blurred. And moving forward, that front view, and there we go. So very easily send them to the queue and basically start the queue, and it will go through just rendering all of the options you've placed. So we've come through a point where we have we've looked at setting up the model the way we want it, using the tools in the feature tree here. Then we've looked at the appearances, creating new ones, changing the current ones, and so on, adding some environments to there, going through some changes here, and looking at setting up cameras. What I want to do now is create a short animation, and we're going to be using the animation tools down the bottom. Very easy to do that. Once again, you don't need to go to a training of who knows how many days in order to be able to do that. It's very simple. So first of all, I'm going to create a new camera. So Control C, Control V, and I'm going to name this camera animation. Animation camera, and I'm going to activate it. So this camera will be looking at animating a few things here. So first of all, my selection tool, so I'm able to select multiple parts only. Okay, and we still have all of the settings, so the post-processing that you get and everything is there in the animation. We have the reflections and so on. So this is going to be a 5-second animation, very short. And what I'm going to do to start with is look at the pods and moving those pods away. What I have is this auto keyframing tool, which is turned on, and it's turned on by default. And what it allows us to do is, once I select all of these, I'm able to use a shortcut, Control K, to basically set a keyframe here, and this records the position of the pods in time equals 0. And then what I'm going to do is move my current time to 5 seconds, and then I will simply drag these out of the way somewhere, and this will record their position at 5 seconds. So what I have is a motion like so. Okay, so from 0 to 5 seconds. So looking at that again, if I drag my current time, okay, so very easy, simple to create type of motion. Okay, also what we can do is in the cameras, I'm going to add a keyframe for the camera. So Shift Control K is the shortcut there, but you can also right click and add a keyframe to the camera, and what this does is it records the position of the camera at time 0. So if I move my time to 5 seconds here, and then I manipulate the camera, so I'm going to spin it around like so, and slightly, just zoom into it. My intention is to zoom into the cup there, and just leaving the camera there. So my timing at the moment, my bar is at 5 seconds, and what I'm going to do is add another keyframe with the camera being in this position at 5 seconds. And so what I get in that case is the movement on the camera from position A to position B at the time where we place the time bar, okay, and we get motion in the camera and motion of the pods moving away from the model as we zoom in, and it's quite a nice transition of the camera there. Okay, all of this will be rendered using keyframes that frames per second that we set. So I'm going to send this to render. I'm going to use the animation option there. Okay, so we have settings regarding the animation, and I'm just going to leave it all as it is, basically, and send it to queue. There we go. Now we have the animation, which is being sent to the queue. Of course, the animation would take a much longer time because it renders in sequence a combination of JPEGs. We had a setting there. I used the JPEGs, and basically what we have is all of those put together into a video that looks like that. So you can see the quality of the video is extremely good. And just playing that again for everyone. And that's the animation there. Okay, and finally what we're going to look at for this webinar is what SOLIDWORKS Visualize calls a VR. So moving back to my original camera, Control-C, Control-V to keep all of my settings and activating that. I'm going to call this a VR camera. Okay, what a VR requires is basically simply rotating the model around so that it can capture all the details you require, and setting that to render as a VR. And it's basically as simple as rotating the model around. So I'm going to rotate the model just showing all the sides and the top as well, but not the bottom. I don't want the bottom of the model being rendered into the VR, so it's just simply rotating around like so. Rotate it all around, and from there on I'm going to hit the render tool. I want it to render as a VR. Okay, leave the settings as they are, send to queue. Okay, we have the VR option, which is turned on in the bottom, and the outcome of that is basically a model that we can see using any viewer such as Google Chrome. So I've got Google Chrome there, and it opens up in Google Chrome, and I can simply move that around, okay, and it's It uses background images and it knits them together in order to give you the ability to interact with the model, rotate it around. See how I'm not able to rotate to see the bottom because I'd never included the bottom in the VR, but this allows you to rotate it around and be able to see the full model three-dimensionally all rendered. And yeah, basically it's as simple as that. You can send this to a customer, they can have a look at it, they don't need any special software, they can look at it using Google Chrome, or you can actually export these, put them on your website. That way the customer can go in and actually interact with your products. And close that. And these are the basics of what SOLIDWORKS Visualize can do. So the VR is part of the SOLIDWORKS the Visualize Professional version, not available in the standard. And there are some other options that we can look at. But the software actually goes into depth quite a lot more. Okay, so we can render environments in the background and create realistic images, realistic walkthroughs, if you like, or virtual reality environments where you can use your mouse to basically move around the environment, zoom in and zoom out, look around in 360 degrees and so on. And these environments can be imported from a CAD software, rendered, and then you can walk through them. So I'm not going to go through that in this session, but there will be another session later on in the year where we'll do a much more complex model, and we'll look at some of the more advanced features. So I'm going to close this now and just have a look at an example of that. It's this 1969 Camaro, and this has a background environment, okay? And so if I look around, okay, you can see how the floor is flat and the environment around it can be seen. Okay, so looking at that angle, for example, there, and this is of course not rendered. So once you render this, you will see a much better quality background and much better quality foreground. So we are able to do that. We can set up the camera to go around and view it from different angles automatically. And as I said, for internal environments, we can actually set up a render where we can walk around, look at it in 360-degree view while it's all rendered. All right, guys, and that's all for Visualize for today. If you have any questions, please put them in the questions section. We'll have a look at that and get back to you. If you want to talk about Visualize and maybe getting a personal demo, or you can contact us. And otherwise, any questions, yes, you can send them through the questions tab. Thank you for attending the webinar today, and stay tuned for much more from InterCAD Direct. Bye for now.